one thing people had always told me about the Philippines, the first thing they always mentioned was that it was hot. Nay, it is hot. It's still hot. But it's not really something you can tell unless you experience it for yourself. So when we first stepped off the plane, when we first got out of the airport in Manila, first off, I didn't think it was that bad, but that was judging off about 10 seconds. And after that, I was sweating profusely in a suit. We took all of our suits off. And it was also raining, which makes it a bit more muggy outside. But once we got to Tacloban, we were greeted by the mission president. It was still hot. We got to the mission office, and we were told to hand them our suits, and we were going to hang them up for 2 years because we're not going to wear them there. Interestingly enough, 2 years later, when we came back to get our suits, since it was raining that day, we had stored our suits while they were still wet, and they were tucked away in a closet. And so we got our suits back, and most of them were falling apart. They were spawning mold on them because of the rain. So needless to say, we didn't take them back with us. When we got to the mission field, nowadays they just kind of throw you right in. We were taken out by some more senior missionaries in their area, and they had made appointments. We went and visited them with their appointments. Us being fresh out of the MTC, we thought we knew the language. We were ready to use it. So we went to our first appointment. The senior missionaries and the people we were visiting would talk with each other. Meanwhile, we just sat there in silence, not understanding anything. And it wasn't until later that night that we found out they weren't even speaking the same language that we learned in the MTC. In Tacloban, in the Tacloban mission, you probably won't speak Cebuano like you learn in the MTC. The majority of them speak a dialect called Waray Waray. And even though it's its own dialect, depending on the area, that can still be different. There can be different words, different grammar, different pronunciations. So your whole mission will be spent, in whatever area you're in, just learning different dialects, learning different languages. For me, myself, over 2 years, I ended up teaching myself how to speak Tagalog, which is the national language, just because everyone's taught that in school. So that way, if someone didn't understand one of the languages we were speaking, or they had, migrated or come in from a different island that spoke a totally different dialect, I could go to Tagalog and, we could have a basic conversation. There'd be basic understanding. But that's not for everyone. It's just interesting how 5 miles away it can be a totally different language. And that's what was hard as a missionary. You're not able to focus specifically on the language because you're always learning a different language. And so you're not, if you are in that position, you're not able to, for me, I didn't become super fluent in any one language. I became more of a jack of all trades in many different languages. That was an interesting aspect of our mission.